Well, welcome to another edition of Wine Time Yakima. And we're back here in the Yakima Visitor Center. We want to say a very big thank you again to them today for hosting us. And our very special guest this week is the Chief of Police, Shawn Boyle, someone who probably needs no introduction at all, a very, very familiar figure here in Yakima. Very nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks for coming along. Now, we're not having wine today, we're having some tea.
No, I asked for one with a lot of caffeine.
Okay, and this is raspberry black tea. Have you had this before?
I have not, no.
What do you think of it?
It's pretty good. A little warm, so I'm going to let it cool off
Let it cool a little bit.
So.
You're absolutely right, it is very hot. But raspberry, yes, very taste of raspberry, definitely. Cool. So Shawn, did you grow up here in Yakima?
No, I actually grew up in Massachusetts.
Oh wow, so you've come a long way.
Yep, I went in the Army when I was 18 years old after graduating high school. I tried a little bit of college. It wasn't really ready for it yet. And the Army, I ended up going in the Army and spent about 5 years in the Army. Went to Germany, spent some time at Fort Lewis and Panama for a little bit, and then I finished my career in the military at the Yakima Training Center. That's what brought me here.
Oh, so that's why you came. Gotcha. So, and once you left the Army, what did you want to do next? What was your big plan?
My plan was I was either going to go to college or try to get hired by a police department. And I had actually enrolled in YVCC at the time, and I was offered a position in the Yakima City Jail in 1996. So I kind of a week overlap. I was on terminal leave from the Army and then got hired at the Yakima City Jail, and I was actually there the day they brought in their first inmate, was booked into jail. So that was kind of the inception of, I think it was the 9th person hired in the jail there.
Wow. So growing up, I mean, had the Army, had military, had law enforcement been something that you'd always wanted to pursue, do you think?
I think I thought about it. I had thought about the military. My dad was in the Army, spent 3 years in the 60s. It was actually in Germany. He was actually stationed only about 45 minutes to an hour away from where I ended up being stationed. And then I graduated high school. I was a young kid when I graduated. I was 17 and hadn't yet turned 18. I kind of wanted to go in the Army, and my parents wanted me to try college, and I wasn't ready. I went, and it was kind of a failure on my part, but I think the Army was a good transition for me to kind of grow up and mature and kind of teach me about responsibility. And so I joined the Army about 2.5 months into when I was in college and when I had started. And then I went in April of 1996. So I kind of had a little bit of time where I'd signed up, but yet hadn't left.
But if it took you to Germany and it took you to Panama, I mean, that's a great experience, life experience that you managed to get through that.
Yeah, actually I said it wrong. I got out in April of 96. I went in April of 91. But yeah, it taught me you have to be at work at 6. They say 6 o'clock, you're there at 6. And you work when you're done. So it was a good learning experience. It kind of helped me grow up. I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, about 3,000 people. And so I hadn't really gotten out much. So I kind of think the Army gave me an opportunity to get to know there's a lot more out in the world versus what the small town I grew up in. So. And
if your dad was in the Army, as a child, were you moving around quite a lot? What do they call it? An army?
No, that was before he got married. He was he was only in for 3 years and he got out, and then he pursued other career options.
Did you come from a big family?
Nope, I just have a sister in Massachusetts still, and then myself living out here, and I have my 2 kids that are out here.
Right. So law enforcement wasn't necessarily something you really wanted to pursue as a child, but once you got the taste of it, I suppose, once you were in the jail, I mean, that must have been a very unique, different experience. I mean, particularly compared with the Army.
Yeah, it was. I kind of always thought about a career in law enforcement. I think a lot of kids think of being, police or firemen.
Yes, they do.
And so in the Army, I was in military police for the 5 years that I was in. Gotcha. And then getting hired in the jail was a good experience. It was getting that transition out of the military, different lifestyle, kind of living on your own, and then getting to know a little bit about civilian law enforcement. And I can think once I worked in the jail, I knew I wanted a career in policing, and I think at that time I really wanted to work for the Yakima Police Department since I was working already in the jail at the police department. And so in April, I continued to test for the police departments, but I kind of narrowed down where I wanted to work, and then in September of 97 I got hired as a police officer for the city of Yakima.
So it's been quite a while now that you've been here. It's been a long time now that you've been with the YPD. Did you ever have that ambition and think, gosh, one day I'm going to be the chief? Or were you really just thinking, I just want to do what I want to do?
No, I think I'm kind of a patrolman at heart, a police officer at heart, getting in uniform, going out and stopping cars and interacting with the public and helping people on calls. I think that's kind of my favorite part of the job. And so I never really saw myself being the chief. I wanted to promote the sergeant, and then, as a sergeant, I really enjoyed being a patrol sergeant, being out in the field, and because you have the most interaction with the young cops, the young people that are out there, you're kind of developing them the most, and they have kind of the most influence on our department. realistically, they interact with them daily, and you kind of they see them go from the young kids that came off the street. I was one of those people that needed some mentoring when I was young. We'll call it mentoring.
Okay.
Correcting but seeing them turn into, seeing them be successful after. As a matter of fact, one of my FTOs still works there, Joe Salinas. So it's kind of neat to see him still at the department. Most of the other people are all gone now.
Right.
But then I got an opportunity to promote to lieutenant, and then I still like that job. I spent almost my entire career in uniform, probably about 2 years outside of uniform, out of the 28 that have been a commissioned police officer. So I still go out and stop cars and going out on weekends, and a lot of it's going out and putting in a little bit extra time on myself because I have the administrative duties mostly during the day, and then I spend some time. I like to go out on Friday nights and talk to the young cops on the side of the road. And it's I think you get a good feel of what's going on in the department when you get out and you're sitting at the back of, they stop at a traffic stop and watch the young police officer do their work. And I say young police officer because we're not hiring all kids. We had somebody coming through the other day and they were 40, I think late 40s, and they're like, is this kind of getting late in the game? And I think people that are a little bit older actually probably do better in policing, a little bit mature life life experience.
That's fairly true, yeah.
So then I got promoted to captain, and I not sure I wanted to be the chief. I just I liked the opportunity. There's some things I want to see done before I retire, and I wanted someone from inside, and that's important. I think we went outside for a chief 20 years ago, and we hadn't had anybody from inside in over 20 years, and I think there's a lot to be said for it if you have the qualified people within the organization. And I hope when I decide to retire in a few years that it is somebody from inside again that has the opportunity to be the chief.
I think you're right. I mean, that seems something to me. I've only been in Yakima for a couple of years now, and it seems to me that you've made a very big impact by being, although you were saying you weren't from here originally, but you've lived here an awful long time, most of your adult life. And so you really do understand the Yakima Police Department and the Yakima community possibly better than someone coming in outside. Do you think that really helps?
I think it does. Yeah, I moved here in 1994 to the training center, and worked at the police department since 1996. I think there's a benefit for someone inside the organization to move up into the police chief's position because you're not spending the first year learning and getting to know everybody in the community.
Right.
If I was to go be a chief somewhere else, I had to learn everybody in the community. I got to get to know the city council. I got to get to know the other government officials, but plus the school districts. And so I think you're cutting down on that learning curve for a lot of people. And then you already know the local police chiefs here, the sheriff. I've known Sheriff Udell most of my career, so I think those relationships are already built. And so that I think helps you hit the ground running and not have to take that first year to kind of get acclimated to learning a whole new community, because it is different. If no matter where you go, you're kind of the outsider coming in, and you got to get accepted, by the police officers in even within your own organization.
And how would you say things have changed in the time that you've been here in Yakima? Not necessarily just in Yakima, but in policing perhaps in general, or both? I
think that wine has kind of really taken off. I remember since we're sitting in here, it's a good place to start, I guess. But I remember going out, and wine tasting. It was, just kind of driving all over the place in the valley to find the few that were started. And then now it's kind of every quarter mile, I think you run into one in the lower valley. Right. But it's really taken off, and I think that's important. The agriculture has kind of always been there, but you see an even larger, the fruit packing places that you're seeing built. North 16th Avenue is taken off. The lower valley has taken off with that. I'll go out on Otanum and I see the Bortons built this huge, I don't know how many blocks long it is. We drove by it just the other day, and it was kind of...
It's massive.
It's massive, yeah. And I guess the automation of that. There's the positives. I think we're hoping to go in the right direction. I know the new city manager and assistant city manager really looking to build the community and build it from within. And what does that look like? I hope everybody has a different vision, and I think if hopefully we can get everybody on the same page and really move in that direction. Some things that I've seen as far as crime, I guess that's what I'm here, that's my job. We've seen the explosion of homelessness, and that's not unique to our valley, and I think we're all trying to work with everybody in the community to find a way to address that, and it's not an easy solution. When I first started, there was drug use, and there was people that were addicted, but it was kind of out of sight. It wasn't as in your face every day. which is unfortunate. And it's like I said, we're not unique to that, and we're trying to come up with some solutions to be able to fix that. And hopefully we're doing a good job. I mean, we're working in the right direction, I guess. I mean, we can always do better, in my opinion. But that's larger than just a policing issue. That's a treatment and affordable housing, all those other components that go to helping people address the addiction issues. I think that we've seen a lot more. We started to see business come and go, but I think we just need to find what's going to be our niche and kind of move forward as a community and really kind of grow off that.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think the police play a part in that, in building that community?
Well, I think a safe community is enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's easier to attract, business and people that come to our community when they feel safe. If they feel safe in our community, and just like even our recruiting, a place where you feel safe, I've always been we use stats to try to talk about policing, but I think ultimately if you feel safe, that's what's going to bring you here. I can tell you should be safe because there's, crime stats say that crime's going down or it's going up or it's staying the same. But ultimately we want people to feel safe when they come around. Absolutely. I think that's the police department's role, is to work to make this a community where people feel safe. They can go out and they can walk around. We just did bikes and badges on the Greenway, which was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not a big bike rider, and I felt like it on Sunday, but even with the e-bikes. But I had been down on the Greenway in a while, and a lot of it's clear cut and it's wide open, and we didn't see the people. I think changing the perception, and a lot of the perception comes even from within. We need to talk really well about the things that we have going forward, and we'll work on the things that need to be addressed. But ultimately, you hear a lot of people come to town and they're like, it looks good. I think I talked to city manager in the spring. Someone from the WIAA was saying how the downtown looked better than it had in years. Mm-hmm. And that's people from the outside, and I think we get stuck in our own community. We need to think positive and really talk about the positive things that are going on around here, and that's important to me because I've lived here. Like you said, I've come here, I've grown up here, my kids have been raised here. And so I'm vested in the community, and I think having people that are vested in our community is important.
I mean, you mentioned the homeless issue there. That's certainly definitely one thing that I think a lot of people are concerned about. But the drug issue, we've just done a series that you contributed to. We were very appreciative of that, mainly about fentanyl, but also about the drugs, etc. Do the two things go hand in hand, or are they really just two things that people confuse in their heads and think, well, homelessness equals drugs, drugs equal homelessness?
I think the majority of the people that I've interacted with, and I'm not an expert in why people are living, but it's living on the streets or the homelessness issue. I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons, but a lot of them seem to revolve around drug abuse and mm-hmm. mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're like, well, why don't people want help? Well, a lot of people, they're comfortable living in the streets. Mm. And so you've got to find a way to get them to help themselves. And that's not easy, and I think that everybody's a different approach. And so we're working with, all the stakeholders in town, but ultimately we have some of them, they go to jail, they get right back out and they resume the lifestyle. And it's not always talk about the carrot and stick component, and ultimately we're the stick in that component, but we have to have a carrot too. Right. Because if somebody does say they want help, if they walk in today and say I want help, we arrest them and they say I want help, we've got to have somebody to call, because it may be the one opportunity you have with that person for maybe the next year. And if there's no resource that we can call, and that's I don't know if you've been to any of the meetings they have, and those are the conversations that happen over and over. And treatment providers, they got to be available at 3 a.m, not 8 to 4. Right. And so it's challenging, and all that's expensive.
And of course, one of the challenges that we hear from some of the parents who talk to us about the fentanyl issue, who've lost children, etc., they don't understand why the dealers are still out there, why the children are dying, but it's the dealers who almost are sort of getting away with it, if that's their perception. Mm-hmm. Anyway. I mean, but also it's a question of supply that's coming in from outside as well. All of these things are generally beyond anybody's control, particularly the police. You're dealing with really the aftermath, if you like.
Well, and we as a department work proactively to mm-hmm. try to arrest the dealers, and it's building a case so the criminal justice system's completely overwhelmed. Mm. I know the elected prosecutor, Joe Brusick, is overwhelmed, is experiencing shortages. Not to make excuses, we put together the best cases we can, and then it's up to the court system to hold them accountable. We use both the state and federal court systems to hold the offenders accountable. But you're right, the supply is enormous. Fentanyl is ridiculously cheap. You know, it used to be somewhat expensive to buy. That's one thing that's changed. You know, drugs used to be fairly expensive, but you know, talking to our narcotics detectives, you know, you could buy fentanyl pills for less than $1 at times. It's kind of going up a little bit now. It seems like the supply has been cut off a little bit, but I mean, it's ebbs and flows. And you know, ultimately, we would like to hold those people accountable, but it's really hard to hold somebody accountable, or the dealers. You know, and it seems like, unfortunately, when we arrest one replaces them. So that's the sad part of the, you know, it's a cycle, and there's always somebody to step up. So it's a game we're playing that we're really, and I don't mean to make light of it, calling it a game. No, but it's we're doing the best we can to hold them accountable, and then, you know, the prosecutor's office. But we proactively have our PROAC unit, our patrol officers, and we have people assigned in our narcotics task forces, really trying to work on keeping the drugs out of the community. And you know, but ultimately, if we could find, and it's all a big cycle, because we talked about how if we could get away from people that are on drugs, there'd be nobody to sell to. Right. And that's the system I was talking about earlier with using the services that are available, the treatment centers, et cetera. Because ultimately, if there's nobody to sell to, the dealers, it can be dealers out there, but if nobody's buying, you can put them out of business.
That's a good way of looking at it. I mean, you mentioned, you know, obviously you've raised a family here. You brought up 2 daughters. So obviously you're very much impacted by what goes on yourself in your own personal life. So you also mentioned the retirement word. I don't think you're going just yet.
No, I don't plan on it, no.
But what will be your legacy, or what would you like to be your legacy for when you do finally retire?
Well, I think I want to leave the department better than when I came in. That's the biggest thing. I think that kind of really having a department where I talk about wanting to be out there, but our entire command staff gets out and works with the line level employees. That's important to me, that we build a cohesive department that's set in moving forward. You know, I don't not having wanting to be never really thinking about being the chief. I never really thought about what my legacy would be. To be honest with you, I just want to I want to leave the department better. I want to make it a department where everybody realizes that we're all working together as a team, where, like I said, we have our patrol captain and we have our detective captains out working in uniform on the weekends and nights, being there for the guys and gals to give them support. And then I think that as we move forward, the community is obviously safer, and we've got programs in place that are making us work with, you know, economic development takes off because people feel safe here. And then I think the other part is that I've identified, I kind of touched on a little earlier, that the next chief comes from within. That I've been able to mentor somebody that you know, whoever, you know, if Vicki Baker's still here, or, you know, may I outlast her, or she outlasts me, but, you know, that the city government field wants to hire somebody from within, because I've been a success. We've gone back inside, we've had a success, and then we moved on. And then, you know, that we are developing leaders within our own organization.
And personally for you, because it's a very challenging position, even if you're just you know, an entry-level cop. I don't know what you actually call them.
No, you hit it on the head.
Okay, well, there.
Police recruit.
Recruit all the way up to the chief. It must be a very stressful position. It must put an awful lot of toll with you. You're dealing with things every day that most of us would never want to deal with, let alone actually have to deal with. And yet you've been doing it for what, 26, 27 years?
I just hit 28 years, September 1st.
There you go. How do you separate that from your own emotion, from your own family, so it's, you know, work is work, my life is my life, or maybe you just
people say I work too much.
Okay.
People say I work too much, so I don't know. It's I think about that as one of the retirement things. What does it look like, you know? Because I've been doing this for so long, and it's kind of I always try to stay updated. I try to be involved, and I think separating, you know, raising 2 children here, they know more about policing than most kids would ever know.
Or want to know.
They've been on, but they've been on ride-alongs, and we kind of joke about it. And I think one of my daughters even made a comment when she got out of high school or college about when I was on a ride-along and this happened. So I think I was vested in it, that I wanted a safe place for my kids to go. But, you know, I was always open with my kids about what goes on and kind of talk to them about it. Like I said, they probably know more about policing than they'd ever need to know, but I think that it was a good balance. You know, I remember being tired though, like working a graveyard shift and getting off at 7 in the morning, and they have soccer games at, you know, 10 and noon, because they were just far enough apart that they weren't in the same team. because they're a couple years apart, and so you'd be up, sleep 3-4 hours, go to soccer, sleep 3-4 more, and it was tiring. But luckily I was always in positions where I had the opportunity to be able to go watch them do their sporting events, and they both cheerleaded in high school, and and we were able to take time off to go visit with them and visit them and go to their colleges and when they moved in and all that. So I think that was important, and I think that's one thing we talk about when getting into policing, and probably in the beginning of my career didn't balance enough of it between personal life and work life. And so I think now, we talk to all the young kids coming in, and it seems like the younger generation is a little better at balancing their life. But I think most of the people we hire really like what they're doing, and so they want to be at work, they want to make a difference, they want to be down there, and I was one of those people. And so, in hindsight, did I spend too much time at work? Probably. It's easy to say now.
Well, we're all guilty of that.
I think anybody that's really driven at what they like to do and they really enjoy it. I think it's, getting up for work and really enjoying going to work is important, no matter what you do. And if you get to the point where you can't stand it or you don't like to go there, I think it's time to move on. I think every day.
You're not there yet, though.
No, not even close. Not even close. Some of the meetings I have to go to, they're not as exciting as going and doing police work. But I think getting into the chief's role, having my kids be out of college now, and I think that's helpful. Because
one of your daughters in Spain, you were telling me earlier.
Yep, she was in Spain last year teaching English. She graduated last year in 24, and then she went to Spain for a year, and she's heading back to Spain again this year to teach English. My other daughter is down in Boise as a nurse. So, they're both successful, and my younger ones, we were just talking about it a moment ago, she's taking her time to enjoy life before she settles down. And I think a lot of us get out of college or get out of the military and settle down, and now we're getting to the end of our work career and we can start to spend the time traveling, but it's a lot more fun, I think, when you're younger to travel. A lot easier too, you're not as tired. Being in your mid to late 50s, you're gonna be a little bit more tired when you're out and about. But
that's true.
But they're both, like I said, I'm very proud of both the kids. They're both successful. They both got out of college in 4 years. They both did really well. They were on the dean's list when they were in school, so they're both driven. This is my time to gloat about them. They were both valedictorian at their high school, so it was pretty neat to see them be super successful.
Well, they've got a good role model. That must be it.
Yep, and I think I'll take credit for some of that, but their mom did a great job too. So
now she's not involved in law enforcement at all.
Nope, she's a school teacher. She's been a school teacher for 30-something years. So very nice lady, and done a great job of helping raise the kids. So I think we did a good job.
Well, it sounds like it. Well, you're doing a great job for the community as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We're very happy you're here.
Well, I appreciate
keeping
that.
us safe. It's good. So, Chief, we'll just finish off with some very quick either-or questions. Bit silly, but
okay.
So, hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hamburgers.
Oh, that was easy.
That's not even a choice.
Fully dressed?
Yep.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Okay, that's slightly more spicy, I guess. Now, what's your choice here? Working hard or playing hard?
Depends on the week, the day. I'd say probably working hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I probably work too much. Like I talked about before, I work too much, but when I go and enjoy myself, I like to get out of town and just be, because around town, everybody, you're recognizable.
Well, that's true.
I like to get out of town and just be somebody else. Just one of the crowd. That's more fun.
So what do you like to do when you're not working?
I like golf. I like to spend time. I like to
Is that your
travel.
favorite sport?
Baseball.
Oh, baseball.
But I can't throw anymore because that's, again, getting into your 50s. Your arm doesn't quite work after you throw the ball for a while. But I think traveling is probably my favorite thing. I like to be able to go and see different parts of the country and the world. So,
where's your next trip? Are you going back to Spain, aren't you?
My next trip, I got to go back east for some personal stuff. But my next probably vacation trip will be Mexico around New Year's. Then I want to go back to Spain in the spring. And then I want to take my kids to Cape Cod next summer because we had a house on Cape Cod growing up. So.
Lovely.
We want to go back and spend a week down by the beach and the area that, because my kids went back there a lot when they were little. And so I told them I'd take them back there next summer and we'll spend a week just kind of eating lobster and going to the beach and hopefully see some great white sharks because that's new to Cape Cod since I was a kid. So
that'd be great. So maybe travel is going to be your retirement passion.
I want to travel. I want to travel a lot.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I like to see different parts of the world.
And finally, what's the most encouraging thing that anyone ever said to you?
I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of great advice. I think I can go back to I talked about being mentored as a young kid, as a young cop, actually. That's a tough question.
Well, what's the opposite? Has anyone ever said anything really discouraging to you that you just
plenty.
ignored?
Plenty. I've been the subject of some corrective behavior. No, I think just the encouragement. I think when I had the opportunity to be the chief here, it was kind of never really hit me until I was standing up there, and I think it was just, I guess people having the confidence in me to do the job was very, I don't know, satisfying or just kind of overwhelming to be given the opportunity to do it. And so I think it's kind of been a humbling experience to have the opportunity to do it. And I don't never want to fail. So that's I think that's why I'm really driven. I really want to be successful, and I want to see the people be successful that work for me. And ultimately I want to see our community be successful. I mean,
that's encouragement that you're giving to everybody else. So definitely. Well, Chief, this has been a real pleasure. Thank you so much. Great to see you. And thank you very much for joining us for Wine Time Yakima. Or this week, Tea Time Yakima. How was the tea? Did you like it?
It was very good.
Yeah,
I'm going to finish it.
Cooled down a bit.
Yeah, it cooled down so I could drink it now.
It was a bit hot. But we'll be back for another edition of Wine Time Yakima next Saturday night at 7 p.m. I want to say a very big thank you, of course, to the Yakima Visitor Centre for hosting us again today. It's always great to be in this wonderful place. And we'll see you next week. Chief, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye.